There is this really fascinating disconnect in modern life right now. You're just sitting on your couch, you get a craving for a burger, and you tap a glowing button on your phone.
Right. And then 30 minutes later, a hot meal just magically appears at your door.
Exactly. I mean, we treat it like electricity or running water at this point.
Oh, 100%. It's totally normalized.
But do you realize that that simple, like almost mindless act of tapping a button is actually fueling a global market that is racing toward $1.91 trillion by 2029?
Trillion with a T.
Yeah.
It's a staggering number. And, when you look at the sheer scale of that capital, it becomes clear pretty quickly that we aren't just talking about a hospitality service anymore.
No, not at all.
We are looking at one of the most complex logistical networks ever built.
Right, but we never see the machinery that makes it happen. I mean, we just see the food. So today, we are pulling from this massive comprehensive guide on the 2026 landscape for food delivery management software.
Which is really the invisible digital infrastructure powering this whole trillion-dollar industry.
Exactly. And our mission for this deep dive isn't just to, rattle off a list of software companies or read a feature list. You probably already know the major players.
Yeah, that would be pretty boring.
Right. We want to decode how this technology actually works under the hood. Like, how does an algorithm prioritize a hot meal over a cold one?
Or how does software bridge the gap between a legacy kitchen and a modern smartphone?
Yes. And what does this all mean for you? Whether you are a curious consumer waiting for dinner, a tech enthusiast, or someone running a logistics business. So, okay, let's unpack this, because to really appreciate the architecture of 2026, we have to briefly touch on the structural failure of what came before it.
Ah, right, the analog bottleneck.
Yeah, the analog bottleneck. It was basically an air traffic controller trying to land planes using sticky notes and a landline.
That's a great way to put it.
We know the old paper-based process was slow. A customer calls, a ticket gets written, handed to a kitchen, and then handed to a driver.
But for an audience that understands logistics, the real issue wasn't just speed. It was data fragmentation.
Explain that a bit more.
Well, in a manual system, the data only exists in one physical place at a time, right?
Right.
So the moment a driver leaves the restaurant with that paper ticket, the dispatcher completely loses all visibility of that node in the network. You have a decentralized system with absolutely no state tracking.
Which created a massive vulnerability for businesses. Like, the source material highlights a specific operational nightmare born from this lack of state tracking, which is delivery fraud.
Oh man, the phantom delivery problem. It was a massive drain on profit margins for these places.
Because the data was fragmented, people would they'd call in an order, wait for the driver to show up, take the food, and then call the restaurant an hour later and flat out deny they ever received it.
Well, they claim the driver just never showed up at all.
Exactly.
And without a centralized database tracking the geographical state of the driver, the restaurant had zero cryptographic or spatial proof.
They just had to eat the cost.
They did. But the shift to delivery management software solves this mechanically.
Right.
By requiring the driver's device to ping a centralized server with timestamped geo-coordinates and, coupling that with a digital signature or a photo upload, the software creates an immutable log of the transaction. The fraud opportunity is basically mathematically eliminated.
But wait, I have to push back on the economics of this a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Because the sources claim that adopting these sophisticated centralized tech stacks leads to, quote, low delivery costs. Now, if a restaurant is buying expensive enterprise software, maintaining servers, paying monthly SaaS fees, how does that actually lower the cost of delivery?
It sounds counterintuitive.
Right. CapEx and OpEx are going up. Doesn't that heavy tech tax just get passed down to the price of the burger for the consumer?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yep.
you have to look at unit economics over a high-volume life cycle.
Okay.
Yes, your fixed technological costs definitely increase up front, but you are collapsing your variable costs.
Oh.
You're eliminating the labor hours spent manually dispatching. You're drastically reducing the churn rate of comped meals due to cold food or wrong addresses.
Ah, okay. So it's not about making the delivery itself cheaper to execute in a vacuum. It's about eliminating the expensive failure modes of the network.
Exactly. It is about maximizing asset utilization.
Right.
Because the most expensive asset a delivery company has is the driver's time in the vehicle. If software can increase a driver's output from, say, 3 deliveries an hour to 5 deliveries an hour, the cost per delivery plummets.
which entirely offsets the cost of the software.
Precisely.
Which brings us perfectly to the mechanism that actually achieves that density.
Right.
Like, we know what the software is supposed to do, but let's look under the hood at how it actually does it. Because the absolute heavyweight champion of these features is route optimization.
It really is the core engine of the entire industry.
And we need to clarify this for the listener, because route optimization is not just Google Maps.
Oh, no, not at all.
Google Maps gives you the fastest way from point A to point B. But these delivery algorithms are dealing with something far more complex than that.
Right. They're dealing with a dynamic variation of the traveling salesman problem.
Yeah. You have one driver, but they have like 4 different orders in the car going to 4 different neighborhoods, and the food was cooked at different times.
And that is where the computational magic happens. The software isn't just looking at distance. It assigns weights to different variables.
Like what?
Well, it uses heuristics to evaluate the perishable nature of the cargo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so a hot pizza might have a strict 15-minute degradation window, right? While a bottled soda and a cold salad can easily survive for 40 minutes.
That makes total sense.
So the algorithm calculates millions of potential node sequences in milliseconds. It factors in predictive traffic models, turn restrictions, and those specific food degradation time windows to spit out a route that mathematically guarantees the highest overall quality upon arrival.
And it recalculates dynamically, too. Like, if the driver hits unexpected construction on node 2, the system instantly reroutes nodes 3 and 4.
Exactly.
But the sources mention that beyond just speed, this actually drastically reduces driver stress.
Cognitive load is a massive factor in operational safety and efficiency. Think about the mental bandwidth required to navigate heavy urban traffic while simultaneously trying to, mentally calculate which of your 4 deliveries is closest.
While a customer is probably texting you asking where their food is.
Exactly. It is a recipe for a panic attack, or worse, a traffic accident.
Right.
By outsourcing that spatial reasoning to the algorithm, you remove the decision fatigue.
Which leads to a structural question about the labor dynamic here. Because with real-time GPS tracking, polling the driver's location every 3 seconds, mandated algorithmic routes, and required proof of delivery photos, does this system risk micromanaging the drivers?
That's a fair question.
I mean, functionally, the software is dictating their every physical movement. Is this a system of empowerment, or is it just high-tech surveillance?
That is the central tension of algorithmic management. And there's definitely friction there. But mechanically speaking, the architecture is designed to isolate the driver from the chaos of the network.
Meaning what, exactly?
They don't have to be master navigators anymore. They don't have to be customer service representatives fielding angry calls about delays.
Because the software handles that.
Right. The system's in-app chat and automated push notifications keep the customer updated directly from the server. The software absorbs all that communication overhead, leaving the driver to focus purely on the physical act of safe operation.
They become the physical execution arm of a digital brain.
Precisely. It bridges the communication gap between the endpoints, the restaurant, and the customer without using the driver as a human shield.
Okay, so we understand the core engine now. Centralized state tracking and algorithmic routing. But the 2026 market isn't a monolith.
No, definitely not.
A local mom-and-pop coffee shop needs a very different architecture than a massive enterprise freight fleet. And the market is flooded with specific tools right now.
And evaluating that landscape really requires understanding the different deployment philosophies these companies offer.
So let's categorize the top 10 tools dominating the market right now. Instead of just listing them off, let's look at their structural approaches. The first philosophy I'm seeing in the source material is what I'd call the custom builders. These are platforms like Enatega and Toucan.
The builders are fascinating because they challenge the standard SaaS subscription model.
Yeah.
Enatega, for instance, offers a fully customizable white-label app for a one-time fee. The source quotes it starting around $1,997.
I want to pause on white label because it is a crucial concept here. This doesn't just mean they slap your logo on a generic app, right?
No, not at all. White labeling means they're essentially handing over a cloned, precompiled code base.
Okay.
The back-end architecture, the routing algorithms, the database structures is fully built and battle-tested. But the front end, the UI that the customer interacts with, is entirely yours. You own the brand equity.
And paying a one-time fee of $2,000 to own that code outright is incredibly rare in an era where everyone wants you paying a monthly tax for access.
Oh, absolutely.
Then you have Toucan, which does use the standard SaaS model, I think starting at $39 a month. But they dive deep into specific trigger mechanisms, specifically geofencing.
Geofencing is a brilliant use of spatial data. Mechanically, the software draws an invisible digital perimeter around a physical location, say a 3-block radius around the restaurant.
Using GPS coordinates and cell tower triangulation.
Exactly. And the moment the driver's device crosses that mathematical boundary, it triggers an API webhook.
And what does that do in practice?
Well, that webhook can automatically send a push notification to the kitchen saying, start bagging the fries, the driver's 2 minutes away.
Mm.
It automates the physical workflow based on geographic state changes.
So that's the builders. The second philosophy belongs to the routing heavyweights. If your business relies heavily on complex multi-stop routes, you're looking at tools like Routific, Shipsy, Upper Route Planner, and Dispatch Track.
These are the computational beasts of the industry.
Yeah.
Routific, for example, is designed to ingest massive amounts of raw data. You can feed it a messy, unformatted CSV file of 500 addresses, and its engine will parse that data, geocode the addresses, and construct an optimized geospatial graph for your fleet in seconds.
Upper Route Planner caught my eye because it emphasizes e-commerce integration, specifically with Shopify. And here's where it gets really interesting. The best delivery software in 2026 isn't just about moving cars anymore. It's about how elegantly it talks to the rest of the internet. It is all about the APIs.
That is a critical insight. An API, an application programming interface, is essentially a digital translator.
Right.
If your delivery software exists in an isolated silo, it is useless. You have to be able to accept JSON payloads from your Shopify store, your payment processor, and your point-of-sale system without a human ever having to copy and paste a data field.
Because manual data entry is exactly how we revert back to the dark ages of human error. And Dispatch Track rounds out this heavyweight group by using those API connections to constantly update the customer with incredibly precise ETA notifications.
And then we have the third philosophy, which is all about scale. Local versus enterprise. You have ship day on one end and on-fleet on the other.
Yeah, ShipDay seems tailored for localized disruption. They offer a free tier, which allows a new restaurant to implement barcode scanning and real-time tracking without risking any upfront capital.
Right.
But then you look at OnFleet, the enterprise giant, starting at $550 a month. That is a massive jump in operating costs. What exactly are you buying for that premium?
You are buying complex data orchestration.
Okay.
The sources highlight a specific case study with OnFleet that perfectly illustrates this. A fresh produce provider called Farm to People was struggling with critical data mismatches.
What does a data mismatch look like in this context?
Imagine their marketing database has a customer listed as john.doe@email.com.
Okay.
But the delivery manifest generated by the warehouse has him listed as jdo123.
So the systems just don't know it's the same physical person.
Right. And when that happens, the driver gets sent to the wrong building, or the customer doesn't get their tracking link.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
Totally. Farm to People solved this by utilizing OnFleet's custom fields to directly map foreign keys from their ERP.
And we should probably define ERP for the listener, Enterprise Resource Planning. It's essentially the central nervous system of a business, tracking everything from raw warehouse inventory to financial accounting.
Exactly. OnFleet built a secure API bridge that pulled the unique, immutable customer IDs directly from the ERP and forced them into the delivery app.
Wow.
Yeah, it completely eliminated the human error of mismatching profiles.
Finally, we have the fourth philosophy, the ecosystem integrators. Tools like OpenTable, which now blends reservations with VIP delivery management, and TapMango, which focuses heavily on loyalty programs and mobile push marketing.
These tools prove that delivery is no longer just the end of the transaction.
Right.
It is the beginning of the retention funnel.
But, despite all these incredible, almost sci-fi level tools, the dynamic TSP algorithms, the API bridges, the ERP mapping, the industry is not a utopia.
Far from it.
Let's pivot to the dark side of delivery, because there are some massive, ongoing existential threats facing these businesses, and technology can't solve all of them.
Software can optimize a system, but it cannot override the macroeconomic realities of the physical world.
Very true. First up, unstable pricing models. The sources point out how new businesses enter this fiercely competitive market and try to acquire users by offering unsustainably low delivery fees.
It is a scorched earth customer acquisition strategy.
Yeah.
They artificially suppress the true cost of delivery just to capture market share quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But mechanically, they are spending more to acquire the customer, their CAC, than a customer will ever generate in lifetime value, or LTV,
So they are just bleeding cash.
hemorrhaging it. And worse, it destabilizes the economic baseline for the entire industry. As when venture-backed startups subsidize the cost of a driver, consumers are conditioned to believe that a 30-minute custom delivery should cost $2,
Right.
which is mathematically impossible to sustain once the venture capital dries up.
And then there is the physical bottleneck of capacity. This is essentially applied queuing theory. You can deploy the most expensive on-fleet enterprise architecture in the world, beautifully optimizing your driver's routes. But what happens when a viral TikTok trend hits a local restaurant?
The physical infrastructure fails.
Right. If your software is sending you 300 orders an hour, but your kitchen physically only has 2 fryers and 3 cooks, the software becomes completely irrelevant.
Exactly. Lill's law dictates that the wait time in a system is directly proportional to the number of items in the queue.
Yeah.
The software can perfectly optimize the delivery nodes, but it cannot speed up the thermodynamic process of frying a potato.
Right.
If the kitchen is the bottleneck, the best routing algorithm in the world just means the driver gets to wait in the parking lot faster.
Which brings me to a major structural pushback I had while reading these sources. We're sitting here analyzing all these independent software stacks, Tookin, Shipday, Enatega, but we know the reality of the U.S. market. DoorDash is the undisputed king.
They are.
They own the consumer demand. So if DoorDash already has millions of users and a fully optimized routing engine, why on earth would a local restaurant spend capital to build their own tech stack? Why not just plug into the DoorDash API, hand over the logistics, and focus on cooking?
Well, this raises an important question, and it represents the greatest existential conflict in the hospitality industry today.
Okay.
It really comes down to margin extraction and data sovereignty. Yes, DoorDash aggregates the demand, but they charge staggering commission fees, often up to 30% of the gross order value.
Which, in an industry where net margins usually hover around 5 to 10%, completely flips the unit economics negative.
But the financial extraction isn't even the most dangerous part.
Really? What is...
It is the data-walled garden. When a customer orders a burger through a massive third-party marketplace, the restaurant does not acquire that customer.
Oh,
They do not get the email address. They do not get the behavioral data. They do not get the frequency metrics.
the platform keeps the data to train its own recommendation algorithms.
Precisely. The restaurant is reduced to a nameless, faceless manufacturing node producing calories for the platform's customer.
Wow.
If the platform decides to rank a competitor higher in the discovery funnel tomorrow, the restaurant loses 40% of its revenue instantly. And they have no way to contact their customers to offer a promotion because they don't actually own the relationship.
So deploying an independent software stack like Enatega or Tupin isn't just about routing cars, it is a defensive strategy.
Yes.
It allows a business to reclaim its margins and establish a direct first-party data relationship with its consumers using the same tier of technology that the giants use.
It is about controlling your own digital real estate. If you don't own the transaction layer, you don't own your business.
Which brings us full circle. The next time you're sitting on your couch and you tap that button to order takeout, I want you to visualize the architecture you're engaging with. You'll know that your hot meal didn't just arrive because someone drove fast.
No.
It arrived because you initiated a cascade of API webhooks. You triggered a dynamic algorithm solving the traveling salesman problem in real time, pinging GPS satellites, and mapping foreign keys across enterprise databases in milliseconds.
It is an incredibly sophisticated data ballet,
Yeah.
all executed flawlessly while you watch television.
So what does this all mean for you? It means that this invisible digital infrastructure is doing much more than just optimizing burger delivery. It is quietly rewriting the physical logistics of our cities.
Yeah.
It's altering traffic patterns, redefining commercial real estate values, and fundamentally shifting the economic power dynamics between local businesses and global tech platforms.
And it leaves us with one final and perhaps slightly unsettling concept to mull over. We've seen how these software systems are becoming the central nervous system of the industry,
Right.
governing everything from spatial routing to customer acquisition.
Right.
Are we rapidly approaching an inflection point where a restaurant's physical location, or even the quality of its ambiance, matters far less than the efficiency of its data architecture?
Oh, wow.
If the algorithm is ultimately what determines who sees the menu, how hot the food is upon arrival, and who owns the customer relationship, will the most optimized code ultimately be the most delicious food?
Now there is a thought for the next time you tap that glowing button.
Yeah.